Your mind quietly tricks you into believing two opposing things at once. Maybe you tell yourself one thing while feeling another. Like standing before a doorway you hesitate to walk through. You know what's on the other side, but a part of you stays frozen, caught between what you want and what you fear. How does your mind hold two conflicting truths without breaking? You catch yourself replaying that conversation or staring at the phone screen, stuck in the space between doubt and conviction. It's like living in two rooms at once, both real, both true, but never fully settled. The doorway you freeze before. Think about the last time you stood before a door in the dark. Your hand reaches out, hesitates just above the handle. Maybe it's cold, or maybe it's the weight of the unknown pressing against your skin. You want to open it. You're ready for what's behind, but still, you pull back a little. The air feels thicker, like something's holding you just here in that moment. Not quite forward, not quite back. That pause isn't just fear. It's something more tangled. Your mind is caught up in a quiet tug of war. On one side, there's the pull to step through. Curiosity, hope, the promise of change. On the other, the need to protect what you already know. Safety, certainty, the comfort of standing still. Both truths hang in the air. Neither one lets go. You freeze because your mind is doing something strange. It's holding two things at once, even when they don't fit neatly together. How does your mind keep those opposing stories going, side by side, without snapping? It doesn't erase one to make room for the other. Instead, it stretches and bends, making space where there wasn't any before. Maybe that's what the doorway really is. Not a barrier, but a place where your mind wrestles with itself. That brief moment, hand poised on the handle, is where the clash happens. Between what you want and what you know. Between moving forward and holding on. So you stand there, right here, holding two opposites at once. Holding two opposites. Imagine, you're scrolling through a conversation you had earlier. You told a small lie to keep things smooth. You care about honesty. That's clear. It matters to you, probably more than you admit. But at the same time, you felt a sharp urge to avoid the discomfort that truth might bring, both to you and the other person. These two feelings sit side by side, pulling at you in different directions. Neither lets go. You might think your mind should pick one, honesty or comfort, but it doesn't. It holds on to both. And that's the strange part. You're living with this tension, carrying two opposing truths at once. But here's the thing. This clash isn't just some glitch in how you think. It's a sign that something important is at stake. Because if it were easy to choose, you'd have already let one side go. The fact that you haven't means your mind is guarding a doorway you hesitate to walk through. Maybe it's the doorway to who you really want to be, or how you want to feel about yourself. How does your mind hold two conflicting truths without breaking? It does so by not breaking, by holding the space for both. That tension, uncomfortable as it is, keeps you from rushing into a simple answer. It's not indecision. It's the mind's way of telling you something needs time. And maybe this is where you find the stories you tell yourself to soothe that tension. Stories that explain why both honesty and comfort matter. Stories that keep the door cracked open, even when you don't want to step through yet. They're not about tricking yourself. They're about living with the push and pull, the two truths, without tearing yourself apart. The soothing stories you tell yourself. You catch yourself again. The day's been rough, but you say, "It's not that bad." Maybe to a friend, maybe just out loud when you're alone. There's a knot inside. Things you want to believe, things you know don't quite fit. You think about the choice you made. I had no other way. These words roll out soft, like balm. They smooth over the rough patches between what your heart feels and what your mind warns you against. You're not trying to fool anyone, not really. It just feels better this way. To hold the peace inside. To tell yourself a story that settles the noise. You don't notice when the excuses start to shape themselves. They sneak in quietly, weaving a cushion where sharp edges once pressed. It's like patching a hole with cloth you pull from your own pockets. Not a lie, but an act of mercy. How does your mind hold two conflicting truths without breaking? You might imagine them as two weights pulling at opposite ends of a rope, threatening to snap the middle. But instead of breaking, your mind knits a bridge. Words and stories that meet in the center. Not perfect, not pure. You stand at a doorway, hesitating. Behind it waits the full truth, unfiltered and raw. But the stories you tell yourself keep you here, just a step back. But it's not always about truth. Sometimes it's about survival. Not a question of honesty, but of how you hold your own heart together. But it's not always about truth. You're sitting with that old argument playing in your head again. Not the facts exactly, but the way it claws at something quieter. Your chest tightens, and you're not sure if it's anger or fear. It's not the truth of what happened. It's the truth of who you think you are. Maybe it's about loyalty or fairness, or the kind of person you want to be. It's not just about what you believe, but about what you're willing to accept about yourself. You realize now, it's not just a problem to fix, a glitch to smooth away. That tension is a door. You hesitate at its edge, knowing stepping through will change you. But it also might show you something you've been avoiding. How does your mind hold two conflicting truths without breaking? Maybe it doesn't break. Maybe it tightens, stretches, making room instead. That discomfort, it's not punishment. It's a signpost pointing inward. The soothing stories you tell yourself about being consistent, about knowing exactly who you are. They're just that. They help you move through the day, but they keep you from the messy parts, the parts alive with contradiction. And that's where real self-awareness stirs. It's not about solving the conflict or choosing sides. It's about leaning into the balance that feels uneasy, making that your space. Because when you stop running from the push and pull inside, something shifts. You don't find peace by erasing the tension. You live with it. You live with the uneasy balance. Living with the uneasy balance. Now, picture yourself sitting alone in a dim room, the light muted around you. Your hands rest loosely on your lap, and the quiet hum of the night. That knot of tension hasn't vanished. It's still there, nestled somewhere under your ribs, a small but persistent ache, but you're not reaching for answers. Not yet. You let the unease settle in, like a shadow stretching across the floor, without rushing to chase it away. The urge to fix it feels almost automatic. Your mind wants a tidy solution, a clean line drawn between what you believe and what you're feeling. But instead, you hold still. You let the discomfort hover, neither pushing it deep nor pulling it forward. That tension begins to loosen, its edges softening. It's no longer a sharp jab, but a quiet pulse. How does your mind hold two conflicting truths without breaking? You might imagine it like standing in a hallway, a doorway just ahead. You hesitate. Behind that door, clarity waits. But stepping through means shifting parts of yourself, admitting things you'd rather dodge. So you pause, you stay put. In this space, something shifts. You don't need to force change. The conflict doesn't demand an immediate fix. Instead, it becomes a kind of teacher. The uneasy balance invites you to learn patience, to listen more closely to what's unsettled. Growth isn't a sudden leap through that doorway. It's the slow adjustment of your stance, the acceptance that discomfort isn't the enemy. Your mind's quiet trick revealed. Sometimes, living with the tension is enough. It's not about solving the riddle right away. It's about letting the question breathe alongside you until you're ready to walk through. Your mind's quiet trick revealed. Think about the last time you caught yourself rewriting a moment. Maybe it was a conversation where the words you remember don't quite match what actually happened. You notice how your mind skirts around the details that don't fit, smooths out the rough edges. Almost like a quiet trick, it shifts memories or tucks away facts so your story holds together. You don't always see it happening. It's subtle, like catching a shadow out of the corner of your eye. You pause. There's this small space, almost a doorway, between what you want to believe and what you know to be true. How does your mind hold two conflicting truths without breaking? It's strange. You expect these contradictions to snap something inside you. But instead, your mind bends, making room for both without the crash. This protecting of coherence comes at a cost. You might overlook a cold fact or twist a memory to avoid the discomfort of inconsistency. It's not about lying to others. It's a quiet agreement you make with yourself to keep the inner story safe, whole. So you live with a version that feels right, even if it's not entirely accurate. But here's the thing. Knowing this is happening strips away some of its power. Awareness is like a soft light in a dark room. The trick is less invisible. Suddenly, you're less captive to those mental moves that shape your reality without your say. You don't have to walk blindly through that doorway anymore. You can step through with open eyes, and maybe, just maybe, hold the uneasy balance without pulling the story too tight. Stepping through with open eyes. But here you are. You reach for the handle again. This time, you don't ignore the twist inside you. The tug between what you want to believe and what you know might be true. You feel the weight of those stories you tell yourself, the doubts that crowd the corners of your mind, not as enemies, but as old companions. You don't rush. You don't pull the door open like it owes you something. Instead, you lean into the moment like it's something fragile. Your hand moves slowly. You know the door might not lead where you hoped. Or maybe it will. Either way, you're ready to meet whatever waits on the other side, with open eyes and no excuses. That's not weakness. It's a kind of courage, quiet, sure, and real. It's the courage to hold two conflicting truths inside you without snapping apart, to live with the tension instead of chasing peace. To say, I don't have it all figured out, and still keep moving forward. You step through because you can, because you're willing to see yourself more honestly. This is what changes how you live with yourself, not by erasing the conflict, but by making room for it. Think about that doorway you hesitate to walk through. It's not a blockade. It's an invitation. You're not stuck between truths you can't reconcile. You're in the middle of learning how to carry them. Not as a burden, but as a part of your story. And that makes all the difference. Your mind quietly tricks you into believing two opposing things at once. It doesn't break because it learns to hold a kind of tension, like a door left slightly open. It lets in light and shadow, doubt alongside certainty. These tricks aren't flaws. They're invitations to sit with questions, to rethink what you hold as true, to live with more honesty toward yourself. Sometimes, that doorway isn't a barrier, but a place to pause and listen. So, maybe tonight, when you catch your mind folding in on itself, don't push it away. Lean in and see what's waiting there.